Sabres host the Blue Jackets, a team that is right there in the standings with Buffalo and might be all season. We'll preview the matchup, and I got my bet of the night coming your way as we keep rolling on that front. Coming up here on the Locked On Sabres podcast.
You're Locked On Sabres, your daily podcast on the Buffalo Sabres. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, everybody, and welcome in to this Tuesday edition of the Locked On Sabres podcast. You everydayers, thanks for making us your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you listen to your podcast. Watch the show on YouTube. Hit the like and subscribe button if you do. You could also be a part of our Locked On Sabres text club, starting goalies there, lineup news, waivers, trades, if we ever get any. Stuff during the game, of course, as well. You can hit us up. If you're not already a texter, you could sign up by going to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnSabres. Today's episode is presented by FanDuel. Download the FanDuel app right now. Visit FanDuel.com and win $300 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Sneaky Joe DiBiase here on a game day. We are previewing tonight's matchup with the Columbus Blue Jackets. It is the Frozen Frenzy in the NHL. So we have staggered starts, games that start from 6 o'clock all the way to 11 o'clock. So if you are a giant hockey fan like I am, and you aren't as into the World Series, and you don't have football tonight, and you don't get into basketball until playoff time, well, you have got hockey from 6 o'clock today until, that 11 o'clock game is probably not going to until 1:30 in the morning. So if you really wanted it, you could have 7.5 hours of hockey, at least, tonight. So a lot of hockey coming your way. That is the reason for the 6:45 start time instead of a typical 7 or 7:30 for the Sabres and the Blue Jackets. We'll get to tonight's lineups. We'll get to my bet of the night, 7-1-1 on the season. And I am very confident in my bet again tonight. So we'll try to keep that train rolling. But we got to start with the biggest news of the day. And that is that we have a debut tonight for the Buffalo Sabres, and an exciting one, and one that I think will make a pretty big dent in the lineup going forward. Not that the Sabres have already been struggling defensively, but Michael Kesselring, I think, is going to help them even more. Kesselring is going into the lineup tonight. He is ready to return. He is scheduled to play against the Blue Jackets after getting a couple of practices in under his belt. Of course, he did play some preseason games, so we got a little bit to see out of him then. He was a part of training camp. Then he got hurt, missed the first 9 games of the regular season, and now goes into the lineup. Now, we don't really know where he goes into the lineup because practice on Monday, he was skating as one of the extra defensemen with Jacob Bryson, who is not going to play tonight. He goes into the top 6, and this morning we had an optional skate. So we probably will not know exactly who he will play with until we get to warm-ups, which isn't for, 4 hours now. Well, from time of recording, 4 hours. Right before it, probably 6 o'clock, we'll have a good idea. The idea that he would play with Owen Power is, I still think, going to happen. His long-term partner, I think, is most likely going to be Owen Power. But for tonight, my guess is that is not going to be what happens. Just reading the tea leaves on what we saw yesterday at practice, Mattias Samuelsson was with Rasmus Dahlin. I expect that to stay the same. Samuelsson has earned that opportunity right now. I wouldn't stick with it forever if it goes poorly, but breaking up Bowen Byram and Rasmus Dahlin, I think, has needed to happen. They have not started the season well together, and I think splitting those two up is warranted. Owen Power was with Connor Timmins, and those two have played a little bit together in the last couple of games, while Byram was skating with Zach Metsa on what would be your perceived third pair. So when you look at those 3 pairings, it's like my best guess, what I would say for this game that you are most likely going to find is that Metsa is the guy that is going to come out. So for the time being, I'm going to play it as though Michael Kesselring is going to be on a pair with Bowen Byram today. And that is, I guess, your third pair, because Dahlin would naturally be on your first pair playing the most minutes. Power would naturally be the next highest defenseman in time on ice. So Byram and Kesselring, while that might sound like a top 4 pair, I think it probably is the Sabres' third pair for tonight's game. Let Kesselring get his feet under him, not play him too many minutes, probably around 16, 17, 18 minutes of action tonight is warranted, and I think probably most likely for Kesselring off of this injury, and Bowen Byram's been struggling. So you get him with a guy that, while he's playing his first game, is a solid defenseman that they're hoping can be a top 4 guy. I'm very excited to see Kesselring. I think the Josh Doan story over the past couple of weeks, how he has gone from a nice player in Utah who was very good defensively, and there was this hope, fingers crossed, that there was more offensively for Josh Doan, so far is looking good. Like, that is happening. It is coming to fruition. And I think a very similar question can be asked about Michael Kesselring, guy who was playing more of a depth role for Utah, only averaging, 17 minutes a night, just about, during his Utah career, Utah Hockey Club. They weren't the Mammoth when he was there. You look at his career, he's averaged exactly 1652 of ice time in his NHL career. That is about a third pairing defenseman. He has 53 points in 156 games. He has scored a little bit in his NHL career, 7 goals last year. The hope for me would be he's already proven he's a good defender. He's a good defender. He's not the most physical guy in the world, but he is big. He can skate really well. But now I've got this wonder about, could he be more offensively? He's got this big cannon of a shot that is, I think, something that could really use on maybe a second power play unit, or really just at 5-on-5, wiring 100-mile-per-hour slap shots from the point. Listen, the Sabres don't have a lot of that. I mean, they have a couple. Lyon has developed a great shot over the years, and it's a hard one. I think Bowen Byram's got a nice shot. Other than that, like, Owen Power still is not shooting the puck all that hard. Mattias Samuelsson, I know, he did just score 2 goals. But for the most part, not a guy who in his NHL career you've ever had to worry about his shot. And then beyond that, you are at who? You're at Connor Timmins. I think Timmins actually has a decent shot, a little bit better. But Kesselring is going to come right in and have the hardest shot on the blue line. So more minutes, more shooting opportunities, more offensive zone time, you would hope, not being on a third pair. Is there a double-digit goal scorer in there from the blue line? Because I think that potential exists in Michael Kesselring. I don't know if he'll ever be the big playmaker, but let's get a look at him. We get a first taste of Kesselring as a player tonight, and that's exciting because really he was the Sabres' biggest offseason acquisition. No, I don't think he was worth J.J. Peterka, but that trade with Josh Doan, if he keeps doing what he's doing, and Kesselring is just a tad better than he was in Utah while playing 20 minutes a night instead of 1652, then that's how that trade ends up looking really, really strong for the Buffalo Sabres. Now, as to what Kesselring brings to the team right now, the team is actually doing well in their own end and on the blue line, the things that Kesselring is supposed to help them with. So I guess, let me put it this way. A strength of the Sabres, I would hope, becomes a dominant strength of the Buffalo Sabres. They are right now a good defensive team. They're even a very good defensive team. Are they one of the best defensive teams in the National Hockey League? Probably not. How do you want to do it? You want to go by expected goals on this front? The Sabres, in terms of expected goals allowed, so the amount of goals you're supposed to allow, the Sabres are the 12th best team in the NHL. By that number, 12th best defensive team in the NHL. Good. That's a good defensive team. Can Kesselring get them in the top 10? Can he get them in the top 5? If he can really play for them, we'll see. But it's hard to think they'll get worse on their back end. If they've been able to play this way, play a tough brand of hockey, a team that's tough to score on, with Zach Metza in the lineup and Jacob Bryson in the lineup. I mean, to throw Kesselring in the mix, obviously my hopes are pretty high for him. He'll be wearing number 8. It's a good defensive number. Number 8. Other than Ovechkin, I usually think of that as more of as a defenseman number. So Byram is the most likely pairing. Stay tuned. Locked On Sabres on our text club. If you want it immediately, if you want it on Twitter at Locked On Sabres, stay tuned a little bit later on. We'll figure out who he is playing with tonight. Tonight against the Blue Jackets. Really quick, we'll go through the rest of the Sabres lineup, and then what does Columbus have to offer? This is a tricky little team. I do think that they have the reputation as being a bad hockey team, and I don't think they're great, but I don't think they're that far off from what the Sabres are supposed to be and what the Sabres are this year so far. That's coming up here in the Locked On Sabres podcast. Today's episode of the Locked On Sabres podcast is presented by Monarch Money. Let's be honest, most of us cannot even name where all our financial accounts are, what they're worth between 401ks, savings, and investments. It is easy to lose track, and that can mean leaving money on the table. That's why I started using Monarch, all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or on your phone. You can review everything with your partner, see shared goals, make better financial decisions together, helps organize your accounts, track spending, better handle on investments without ever having to touch a spreadsheet. Monarch's visual dashboards and smart tools make it so much easier to understand where your money's going and how to make it work harder. Don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use the code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. Monarch.com. Code Locked On NHL for half off your first year. All right, previewing Sabres and Blue Jackets here on the Locked On Sabres podcast. We'll get to the odds in a little bit. My bet of the night, 7-1-1 in the season. I'm loving how this is going so far. I feel very confident about tonight. And, you might pick up on some of the clues as to what got me to my bet tonight when I'm talking about the Blue Jackets, because this team is a pretty good defensive team, and the Sabres are a pretty good defensive team, so I wonder how many goals we really get tonight. More on that, though, in a little bit. The Sabres lineup for tonight is, as expected, the forward lines are entirely the same, so we don't even really need to go through those, and we went through the defense pairings already. I guess the number one thing to point to in tonight's lineup is the goaltender. Alex Lyon, back between the pipes. I have a lot more confidence right now in Lyon than, of course, I do Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen, and you feel more solid about him than you would Ellis, just because he's played more games than Ellis at this point. Alex Lyon, I would like to see get a majority of these starts coming up. Glad to see he's back in the lineup tonight against the Blue Jackets. Now, when we get to Columbus, what we see is a team that I actually think is a pretty well-balanced group that might be lacking for some star power, and that is probably going to prevent them from being one of the top teams in the Eastern Conference, or even having it be possible that they could be one of the top teams in the Eastern Conference. Their group, some names to know: Dmitry Voronkov, newer player, 23 goals last year, so he's not like a rookie, fresh on the scenes. Mid-round pick of the Blue Jackets a couple of years ago. He is their leading goal scorer on the year so far with 5 goals and 9 points, You should expect him on their top line. Kirill Marchenko has got a really nice shot. It's a very dynamic player. He plays the most for them in terms of their forward groups, so you're going to see a lot of him. He's got 5 goals on the year as well, but he's down at 8 points. Those are your top offensive talents. Adam Fantilli, who I think is still growing a little bit as a player, but he is going to be their number one center of the future. He's not necessarily playing in that role right now. They kind of have 2 top lines, 2 second lines, however you want to put it. Fantilli with Boone Jenner and Kent Johnson is got a lot of potential as a line. Not Jenner's an older guy, but Fantilli and Johnson. So he's another guy to watch as well. They have added a couple of veterans this offseason. They added Charlie Coyle, third-line center, Zach Aston-Reese on the fourth line. Of course, they go back. You find Ivan Provorov. That was a couple years ago now. And at the very top of their lineup is Zach Werenski. Lack of star power, Werenski's their best player. He is a Norris-caliber defenseman. He is a guy that could lead them in points. He's not doing it right now, but he's capable of that. He's the guy to watch. That's the best player on the Blue Jackets for me, for sure. When you look at them as a team overall, though, and look at these balanced lines, you look at their blue line and the goaltending, which we'll get to. Jet Greaves going to start tonight against the Sabres, and he's put up some good numbers, as has Elvis Merzlikins this year. They've gotten good goaltending from both guys. Part of that is they're a good defensive team. They want to play like how the Sabres want to play. They want to be tough. They want to be a tough team to play against. They want to be sound in their own end. They want to be responsible. And they want to be a team that can play a lot of close hockey games and hopefully comes out on the right side of enough one-score games that they find their way to making the playoffs. That is the Blue Jackets formula, and it can work that way. Sometimes the lack of star power can cause you to not make it, but they do the things that they want to do very well. For the Blue Jackets, all the numbers point to they're very good at limiting chances. When you look at the amount of shot attempts they've allowed on the season, they have allowed the 6th fewest shot attempts in the league at 5-on-5 so far this season. They have allowed the 8th fewest shots in general. They have allowed the fewest goals at 5-on-5. 11 goals in 8 games at 5-on-5 allowed. Again, nobody's allowed fewer in the National Hockey League so far this season. How many shot attempts have the Blue Jackets allowed? The third fewest in the NHL this season. Scoring chances, excuse me. They've allowed the third fewest scoring chances in the NHL this season. And finally, if I didn't mention it already, expected goals at 5-on-5, the Blue Jackets are ninth best. So they are a top 10 defensive unit at even strength in every single metric. What is interesting, though, about Columbus is it's not impossible to score on them. All those numbers might make it sound like, well, they are really stout. They are locked down. Like, you better expect a 2-1 hockey game. I think that's the most likely outcome, but there is one path to getting a lot of goals. While they might be really good at 5-on-5, amazingly, they can be so good at even strength and be dead last in the NHL in the penalty kill. 60.7%. That is the worst penalty kill in the National Hockey League. You have a battle tonight of the best penalty kill in the league, the Buffalo Sabres, who have killed off 93.9% of their power plays or their penalty kills, to Columbus, who's only killed off 60.7%. You have a 33% difference between these two hockey teams. They are gettable. I can't tell you why they are gettable, but the results so far speak for themselves. The Sabres have been a better power play as of late. So tonight could be one of those nights where the Sabres don't even end up scoring at 5-on-5, but they get 2 or 3 power play goals, and that's their path to victory. It's hard to do it that way. You're probably going to get 1 at even strength somewhere along the way, but the bad penalty kill for the Columbus Blue Jackets. Jet Greaves starting goal, as I mentioned earlier, and he's a .903 save percentage on the season. 3 quality starts so far in 4 games. You got a pretty good goaltender that you're going up against tonight. 8 points for Columbus. All of these early on games are 4-point hockey games. You don't know who you're going to be competing with. It's why I got so mad that the Sabres gave 2 points to Toronto over the weekend. How they could have been up on Toronto. They could have had 4 points over the weekend and Toronto 0 and ended up being 3-2. That's why I got so mad about that. I don't know who the Sabres are going to be competing with down the stretch. Columbus could very likely be one of these teams. I think of them, I probably think Tampa's more likely, who's below them in the standings. I think the Rangers are more likely. I even think Toronto is more likely. But it is possible that it's Columbus, that they are one of the teams that you are fighting with down to the very end. So in a game like this, get an advantage. Go up to 11 points, keep them down at 8. Don't let them get to overtime. That obviously is the best result for tonight's game. I am already thinking about their opponents and what they get in these hockey games, not making them 3-point hockey games. When we come back, along the same lines of both these teams being pretty good defensively, got some of the odds, got my bet of the night coming your way when we return here on the Locked On Sabres podcast. When we get to my bet of the night, all odds, courtesy of FanDuel Sportsbook. That's where I'll be making my bet. I love using FanDuel. I like using it to track games. When I make a bet, it pops up in my lock screen and on my phone, and I don't even have to open my phone. Just hit the power button on my phone, and it pops right up with exactly what I'm going to be wanting to see from the game, what the score is, how my bet is doing. FanDuel is a great way to track all of these games, and it's hockey, it's football, basketball is back, the World Series as well. There's no better place to get on the action than FanDuel. Even if you miss the start of the game, you want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel's live bets on everything from who will score next to, a little third period comeback. Plus, combine your live bets, same game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. Keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making that late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com, sign up today. Again, if you're a new customer, place a $5 bet. If you win it, $300 in bonus bets. Play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, speaking of FanDuel, let's get to it's bet of the night time. It's my favorite time of the show, and yes, that is most likely because I've been winning as of late. So that's going to make it a little bit more fun, no doubt. So let's get to it. The Sabres in this game, the odds are actually moving very quickly on this game. Maybe a little bit of money just came in on the Buffalo Sabres because when we began the show here, it was -110 for the Sabres, -110 for the Blue Jackets. As I sit here this very second, and you could be listening to this at a different time, maybe it's moved, minus 115 for the Sabres, minus 104 for Columbus. So the Sabres a very slight favorite in this game. The over-under in this game is 6.5 goals, minus 110 on the over, minus 110 on the under. I am 7-1-1 on the year, plus 13.4 units. So if you'd start with $10, you'd be able 134. I am going with under 6.5 goals for this game. I think considering I've got two goalies that I like, Alex Lyon on the Buffalo side, Jet Greaves on the Columbus side. I've got two teams that are very good defensively. Columbus may be a little bit better than Buffalo, but the Sabres might make up for that in their very strong penalty kill. And I got a total that's up at 6.5 instead of 5.5. I like the Sabres and the Blue Jackets to score under 6.5 goals in this game. That's my bet of the night. Now, interesting. I'm looking at some of these anytime goal bets. I'm not going to make one of my bets of the night. I've got a little bit of advice, though. There's one way I'm thinking. I'm looking at anytime goal score odds right now. I simply do not understand why the Buffalo Sabres or why Zach Benson, I should say, is one of the favorites for the Sabres to score a goal. Plus 280. He has the fourth best odds, only behind Alex Tuch, Josh Doan, who was the second best odds, and then Tage Thompson. I don't understand why Zach Benson is number one. I love Zach Benson. I love the player. He's going to get a lot of assists. He has not scored a goal in 6 games. Why are his odds going up? I guess it could be the opportunities that he's getting. I guess it could be the expected goals. But I just am not going to I would never bet at plus 280 a guy that has a shot as poor as he currently does. So love the player. Not a criticism of him. Just don't think his odds should be at plus 280. I don't think his odds should be better than Ryan McLeod, who's at plus 360. I don't think his odds should be better than Jack Quinn at plus 380. Who else? I mean, Dahlin plus 390. Oh, I missed the obvious one. Yuri Kulik. Plus 330. He's on the same line. He gets power play opportunities. He's got a far better shot. I would go Kulik 10 times before I would bet Benson, especially when I can get Kulik at plus 330. While Benson, you gotta take a little bit of a hit and get him at plus 280. Just doesn't make any sense to me. It's a very, very weird line. Some other things I was looking at: shots on goal bets for this game. Tage Thompson to get 3+ shots on goal is minus 330. Listen, those Tage shot bets, they're too juiced up. They're fun because he gets a lot of them. I don't necessarily love them because you're not really getting much of a payoff. I mean, 4+ shots, you're still not even getting even money. It's minus 128 on the odds. If you are looking at anybody on the Columbus side of things, maybe you're looking at an emotional hedge of some sort. I mean, right now, I think Voronkov is probably the answer. He's been scoring, and he's got better odds than Marchenko. Marchenko plus 195, plus 130 for Voronkov. So I want to bet the number there more than I want to bet the player. Otherwise, I probably wouldn't go for anything on the Columbus side of things. So Sabres and Blue Jackets tonight. Get those 2 points. Don't let Columbus get 2 points, and let's get this thing back to a playoff spot for the Buffalo Sabres. I mean, every team is playing tonight, so it's possible the Sabres are in a playoff spot by tomorrow, but it's also possible they win and they're not. So we'll have to see what the night brings us. That will do it for us today here on the Locked On Sabres podcast. If you want more hockey talk, all the games tonight, check out Locked On Fantasy Hockey with Steele and Flip. They got your preview. And then, of course, Locked On NHL Game Night. That's available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube as well. We'll talk to you tomorrow after Sabres and Blue Jackets here on the Locked On Sabres podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.